berjumpa lagi and welcome to ASEAN Today. I'm Raissa Chentami of the Indonesia Channel in Jakarta.
สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Bunnag of Thai PBS World in Bangkok, and this is your monthly look at the dynamic Southeast Asia region. We begin in Malaysia, where former Prime Minister Najib Razak has begun serving his 12-year prison sentence after the country's highest court upheld his conviction.
The court's decision capped the stunning downfall of Najib, who until 4 years ago governed Malaysia with an iron grip and suppressed investigations of the 1MDB scandal. The court on August 23rd also denied his request for a stay of sentence. Najib was found guilty by a lower court in July 2020 of criminal breach of trust, abuse of power, and money laundering for illegally receiving about $10 million from SRC International. He had been out on bail pending the appeal ruling. Najib was also given a 210 million ringgit or $46.8 million fine.
A court in Myanmar has convicted deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi on charges of corruption, adding 6 years to her prison sentence. Suu Kyi had already been sentenced to 11 years in prison on sedition, corruption, and other charges at earlier trials. In the 4 corruption cases decided on August 15th, Suu Kyi was alleged to have abused her position to rent public land at below market prices and to have built a residence with donations meant for charitable purposes. She received sentences of 3 years for each of the 4 counts, but the sentences for 3 of them will be served concurrently. Suu Kyi denied all charges and her lawyers are expected to appeal. A strong earthquake shook several parts of Indonesia on August 22nd, rattling buildings and sending panicked residents into the streets. The 5.6 magnitude earthquake shook the resort island of Bali with no immediate reports of damages or casualties. It occurred 49 kilometers southeast of Nusa Dua at a depth of 129 kilometers. The tremors were also felt across Indonesia in Lombok, Java, Madura, and Sumbawa. At least 5 people died and 130 hurt after a powerful earthquake struck the northern Philippines on July 27th. The 7.0 magnitude quake hit northern Luzon, the country's most populous island. Its impact was felt in the capital Manila, 400 kilometers away. More than 21,000 people were impacted by the quake, which caused $687 million of infrastructure damage. The earthquake destroyed more than 400 homes, dozens of schools, several hospitals and bridges, and the centuries-old vegan cathedral and Banta Bell Tower.
Here in Thailand, the country's top court has suspended Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha from official duties while it considers a legal challenge to his term in office.
The kingdom's constitution limits leaders to 8 years in power. Opposition parties argued that the army chief has overstayed his tenure since he seized power in a 2014 military coup. His surprise suspension on August 24th threw Thai politics into confusion. Some of his supporters argued that his premiership started in 2019 after the first general election under the latest constitution. One of Prayut's deputies, Prawit Wongsuwan, took over as caretaker prime minister while the case is being decided.
At least 20 people were killed and dozens more hurt in a fire at a crowded nightclub in Thailand's Chonburi province.
The fire broke out at the Mountain Bee Club on August 5th. Authorities found 13 charred bodies inside the venue. 7 others have since died from their injuries. All the victims were Thai nationals. 25 people needed medical treatment in hospitals, with 9 on ventilators. Flammable acoustic foam on the walls of the club accelerated the fire that took firefighters more than 3 hours to bring under control.
Workers are pushing to complete a new landmark in Cambodia, the Siem Reap Angkor International Airport. It's located in the same city as the UNESCO-listed Angkor Archaeological Park, an important project under the Belt and Road Initiative. ASEAN Today's Karina Tasha reports.
Construction of the Siem Reap Angkor International Airport has picked up pace with workers on target to complete the sprawling facility in time for its scheduled opening next year. The existing airport was already struggling to cope with the growing number of tourist arrivals before the pandemic. The new facility can handle up to 7 million passengers and 10,000 tons of cargo annually, a critical investment in Cambodia's future. In the first 3 months of this year, the country welcomed nearly 152,000 foreign visitors, an increase of 114% recorded in the same period last year. The new airport is licensed and financed by Angkor International Airport Investment on 700 hectares of land. It's being developed under a 55-year build, operate, transfer model, covering 5 years of construction and 50 years of business operations with a registered capital investment of $880 million.
航站楼正在进行这个机电、弱电和精装修的一个施工。同步呢，飞行区正在进行这个站坪的道面混凝土的一个施工。我们的目标呢，还是按照3年建成的目标。
Work on the project began in March 2020, generating some 1,900 jobs. Despite the impact of COVID-19, the airport is expected to be fully completed in March 2023 and ready for commercial operations in October 2023, following a 6-month safety and security testing and certification process.
The airport itself will promote trade, investment, tourist arrival, air transport services, and this will lead to economic growth and job creation for Cambodian people. Tourist industry play a very important role in Cambodian economy. It take up like 15 to 17% of our GDP.
A 3,600-meter runway will accommodate the landing of all commercially operated aircraft. Bilateral cooperation goes far beyond infrastructure. The Chinese company in charge of the construction of the airport is also carrying out an education project aiming to upgrade facilities of 27 schools across Cambodia.
把大量环保的产品应用到现场，就要按照当地是吧？柬埔寨当地的一些规定，对森林啊各种的保护呢，完全熟悉当地的一些规定呢，遵守当地的那个政策和法律法规的这方面的规定。
An area of 1,000 hectares is earmarked for a special economic zone to be built near the airport. An expressway directly connecting the airport to Siem Reap is also in the works for this important infrastructure project. Karina Tasha for ASEAN Today.
More ASEAN Today is coming up shortly.
Celebrating ASEAN's 55th anniversary, we put regional leaders in the hot seat. Next.
Saya ingin mengumumkan kerjasama dengan The Indonesia Channel. Saya mendorong semua entitas untuk bergabung dalam upaya ini dengan mempromosikan produk dan layanan mereka di platform digital yang unik ini.
I love Indonesia. I love the food. Yummy. Wow. I'm gonna hunt for ingredients. Now I'm ready to cook. Let's go to the kitchen. It's done. Let's meet to eat.
Foodiepedia on the Indonesia Channel.
Trần Minh Ngân of VCCN Net Việt in Hanoi.
I'm Thairat Thomya of Thailand's Thairat TV in Bangkok.
I'm Monica Sambodet from the National Television of Cambodia in Phnom Penh.
I'm Raymond Goh of Malaysia's TV3 in Kuala Lumpur.
I'm Glenda Chong of Singapore's Channel News Asia.
I'm Raissa Chentami of the Indonesia Channel at the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta. This is your weekly look into the dynamic Southeast Asia region.
ASEAN Today on the Indonesia Channel.
The Best of Bali takes viewers on a special guided tour to the treasures of the island of the gods.
Well, the romantic dinner is beautiful.
The Best of Bali, only on the Indonesia Channel.
You're watching ASEAN Today. I'm Bunnag in Bangkok.
And I'm Raissa Chentami in Jakarta. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations celebrated its 55th birthday on August 8th. The observance focused on this year's theme, Addressing Challenges Together.
Thanks to our effective pandemic response and guided by the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework and its implementation plan, we have emerged stronger, safer, and more resilient as a community. Our trade volumes have returned to a pre-pandemic levels, and ASEAN's economy is forecasted to grow by 4.9% this year and 5.2% next year. Meanwhile, the entry into force of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership this year demonstrates the ASEAN pivotal role in contributing to the regional peace and growth, to better life of our people and provide opportunities to all. Notwithstanding these achievements, we must remain vigilant against the ever-present risk to our economy and recovery, disruption to the supply of key commodities, rising costs in food, logistics, and transport, as well as economic slowdown in major economies, are projected to push more people into extreme poverty unless adequately addressed. We should therefore take heed to the past experience in order to better prepare for the future shocks. One key lesson of the pandemic is the importance of the whole of ASEAN community approach. To this end, I wish to highlight 4 key areas going forward. First, as the global linkages become more complex, new solutions are needed by committing more to regional integration and cooperation. ASEAN will need to ensure that initiatives embracing digitalization are effectively implemented. This will enable us to create a thriving digital economy in the region of 463 million internet users, and which is expected to reach 300 billion by 2025. Third, we should pay particular attention to the region's youth as agents of change that will play an indispensable role in our post-pandemic recovery. ASEAN should expand opportunity for young people to participate and contribute in policy making as well as community development. Fourth, we need to re-strategize the way we live based on environmental principles of sustainability and resilience by mainstreaming them across all areas of our works. ASEAN should accelerate its green agenda in areas such as sustainable climate, biodiversity management, sustainable livelihood, circular economy, and energy efficiency with renewable energy.
Our 55th anniversary comes at a time of great upheaval. Trust among nations is in short supply, while zero-sum mentality is rampant. Great power rivalry continues to disrupt the stability in the Indo-Pacific region. At the same time, many regional flashpoints show signs of escalation and have the potential to turn into an open conflict. Internally, ASEAN is also challenged to find a solution as a family to address the crisis in Myanmar. We are deeply concerned that we have not seen any significant progress by the military junta in Myanmar in implementing the 5-point of consensus. We do not need words, but deeds to implement the 5-point of consensus. Allow me to quote the chair of ASEAN, Prime Minister Hun Sen of Cambodia, during his recent meeting with the ASEAN foreign ministers. ASEAN should not be taken hostage by the situation in Myanmar, and ASEAN must move forward. Colleagues, we must not let the issue of Myanmar define ASEAN. We have to fulfill the wish of our people to live in peace, stability, and prosperity. One of the preamble paragraphs of the ASEAN Charter stipulates our adherence to the principle of democracy, the rule of law and good governance, respect for and protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. The importance of this principle is also reiterated in Article 1 of the ASEAN Charter. On this anniversary, therefore, let us repeat our call for the military junta in Myanmar to fully implement the 5-point of consensus.
With time, ASEAN regionalism has matured. Its role in the multilateral world is now widely respected and recognized. ASEAN has moved on to deepen and broaden its relationship with external partners in the spirit of mutual interest, mutual respect, and equality. With currently 49 parties to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, our relationship with our external partners have grown steadily from year to year, spanning multiple continents and reflecting ASEAN's growing relevance and significance in regional world affairs.
After Cambodia, Indonesia is set to take the ASEAN chair next year. More ASEAN Today is coming up shortly.
We go to Bali. That's where an unlikely ally is helping save an endangered bird from extinction.
Produk lokal memang handal, kreasi lokal memang spesial. Ayo beli buatan negeri, bangga sekali produk sendiri. Dari busana sampai kria, kuliner juga buatan kita. Ayo beli kreatif lokal, marilah beli produk kreatif lokal. Pejuang negeri, beli kreatif lokal, banggalah beli produk kreatif lokal.
I'm Caitlin Turner, and welcome to Yoga Bliss. Exhale, reaching down to triangle pose. Roll your knee out and up to the sky, breathing here.
Yoga Bliss. only on the Indonesia Channel.
You are watching iPop Playlist.
iPop on the Indonesia Channel.
This is ASEAN Today.
And we're coming to you this week from Jakarta and Bangkok. The world awoke on July 25th to news that Myanmar's military junta has executed 4 democracy activists. Critics say that this has escalated the government's campaign of repression while adding to a global outcry. ASEAN Today's Fazul Atsin reports.
The executions of 4 prisoners by Myanmar's military government drew immediate and widespread international condemnation. Activist Tinjar Sunlayi fled the country following the February 2021 military takeover. She said she was shocked and appalled over the display of power intended to intimidate.
They want to instill fear among us, especially the resistant groups and the general public. So they will do everything they can.
Speaking from the Thai-Myanmar border area, Sun Lei said the executions showed the generals are out of control.
It's not a military anymore, but not a political stakeholder anymore. They are the criminals. That will escalate the revolution. This action is just like a call to a war.
The Deputy Asia Director of US-based human rights watchdog Human Rights Watch also condemned the action.
The depravity of the Myanmar military junta knows no bounds. These are 4 political prisoners. They were brought up in front of a military tribunal. That was a closed trial. Crimes against humanity is obviously not enough for the Myanmar military junta. Now they're engaged in executing prisoners.
Since the 2021 takeover, ASEAN has taken the lead in efforts towards resolving the situation in the member country, with little to show so far for its diplomacy.
This is a real wake-up call for the international community, that they cannot allow Myanmar to just slide off the table, to be concerned too much about other things and ignore Myanmar's worsening civil war and the human rights atrocities that are going along with it. This is a call for attention now for the international community to step back in and recognize that ASEAN doesn't have the wherewithal to solve this problem.
These first judicial executions in Myanmar since 1976 came despite a direct appeal on June 11th by Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen to junta leader Min Aung Hlaing. More than 2,100 people have been killed since the military takeover. More than 11,700 remain in detention. Fawzul Azim for ASEAN Today.
Here are several events on the ASEAN calendar. K-pop lovers get ready for Super Junior's Super Show 9 in Singapore on September 3rd. The Putrajaya Inter-Park Ride will return from September 17th to the 18th in Putrajaya, Malaysia. And Thailand Grand Prix will run from September 30th to October 12th in Buriram, Thailand. In 2006, there were no signs of Bali mynas or starlings in the West Bali National Park. Fast forward to nearly 2 decades later, hundreds of Bali mynas are now soaring around the wildlife sanctuary. As ASEAN Today's Aisha Nadira reports, conservationists are working to bring the critically endangered bird back from the brink of extinction with help from an unlikely ally, bird breeders and sellers.
Endemic to Bali, the Bali myna has been a highly sought collector's item in the international bird trade for more than a century due to their striking white plumage and song. Capture of the birds for sale, coupled with habitat loss from land conversion to farming, led to the bird being listed as threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature in 1988 and upgraded to critically endangered in 1994. By 2001, Experts estimated only about 6 Bali mynas were living in the wild, with thousands in captivity across the globe. Recognizing Indonesia's deeply ingrained bird breeder culture and the dire need for Bali myna conservation, BirdLife International paired with the government to launch a captive breeding programs in the 1980s. Breeders are able to apply for licenses to breed the birds. If approved, they're given mynas by the government and are allowed to keep 90% of the offspring for private sale. The remaining birds are rehabilitated and released at West Bali National Park, where they can be monitored by park authorities.
You could have a wild population that still thrives while the bird keepers can still keep birds and follow their hobby without it causing real problems for wild populations.
Agus Ngurah Krisna Kepakisan, the head of the West Bali National Park, also attributes the success of the breeding program to the creation and proliferation of buffer villages around the park.
Dengan masyarakat menjadi penangkar, terutama yang di desa penyangga, mereka membantu kami untuk menjaga burung yang ada di alam.
The breeding program's results are visible throughout the park, where Kepakisan said 420 Bali mynas now live and hop around in trees, pop their head out of bird boxes, and squawk at tourists passing below them. Conservation efforts have spread to Tabanan Regency, a 3-hour drive from the park, where mynas fly over lush rice fields framed by mountains and forests.
You need also to give something back to the community so they can feel conservation, give them benefit.
At the organization's recent myna release, group of students, police, military, and neighboring villagers eagerly watched as the mynas made their first flight into the wild. Aisha Nadira for ASEAN Today, Jakarta.
We like hear from you throughout the ASEAN region and the world. All of our episodes are posted on YouTube, so check us out there if you can't find us on your local TV channel. Then let us know what you're thinking or what you want to see on the program. Email us at ASEANTodayTV@gmail.com. Post something on our Facebook page or tweet us at ASEAN Today TV. Filipino sports icon Lydia De Viga, who was once dubbed Asia's fastest woman, has died after a 4-year battle with breast cancer. The track and field legend succumbed to her illness on August 10th at age 57. One of the most decorated athletes in the country's history, De Viga amassed 15 gold medals across multiple international competitions, including 9 from the Southeast Asian Games alone. Asia's former track queen also earned 4 Asian Athletics Championships, 2 in 1983 and 2 more in 1987. After winning her last 2 SEA Games medals in 1993, De Viga retired at the age of 30 at the 1994 Manila Fujian Games, where the well-loved athlete capped off her career with an easy victory at the 100-meter dash. Since stepping away from the limelight, De Viga settled for a quiet life as a coach based in Singapore, while her daughter Panning rose to fame as a volleyball player. And that's ASEAN Today for this week. I'm Bunnag of Thai PBS World in Bangkok.
And I'm Raissa Chentami of the Indonesia Channel in Jakarta. Terima kasih. Please join us again next time for ASEAN Today.